Am I the jerk for not taking my parents' dog? Aita for not wanting to take my mom's animals. My mom recently helped my wife and me purchase a house and has always helped financially if I have needed anything. I feel this is important to state for what is to come. We are from the United States but live in Europe. My mom moved back over here about 2 years ago to be closer to me and the grandchildren. She has always had animals and cared very well for them, like extremely well. Most of the time, the dogs and cats have lived to around 16 to 18 years old. When she came here, she went to the vet with her very old dog, around 16 to 17 years old at the time. They treat vet care differently here compared to the United States, and considering the problems the dog had, they didn't want to treat it and instead advised her to euthanize it due to quality of life. She didn't agree. Fast forward some time, and several different vets complained to the authorities about the quality of life of her dog. They came and took the dog and euthanized it. She was devastated and thought about leaving the country we live in to go back to the United States, but ended up staying and getting a new puppy. The authorities have now prosecuted her on the grounds of animal cruelty. I honestly don't agree with this, but it is what it is. Now she is going to leave because they will take her animals if they find that she owns any. She now wants us to take her puppy and cat. I am fine with taking the cat for an unspecified amount of time until she figures everything out and decides if she is going to stay in Europe or move back to the United States. My problem is this: we have 2 small children, a 3-year-old and a 7-month-old baby. We also have a teenage daughter. She obviously has her own life and is out and about with friends, and at times comes home late. When my mom has visited us and had the dog with her, my daughter has woken up the dog when coming home, and then the dog starts barking and wakes up the whole house. We all feel that taking in a puppy is too much of an ask. We feel we don't have the time to take care of it and don't want the extra responsibility, considering we both work and the rest of the time is spent on the kids. Adding a puppy to the equation is like having another small child. My mom says she always helps me when I need it, although I can honestly say that it's no more than I consider normal when it comes to helping family. She says I am ungrateful and that it's messed up that I won't help her in this situation. My wife and teenage daughter don't think it's wrong of me to say no to my mom, but I want to hear from people that don't know me if I am the asshole for not wanting to take the dog. Don't beat yourself up for feeling overwhelmed. Managing a household, working, and taking care of young children is already a full plate. Adding a puppy, especially one that needs a lot of attention and training, is like having another small child. It's about the time, energy, and consistency a young dog requires, which is a huge ask. Your mom's situation is really unfortunate and shows how much she trusts and relies on you, but it doesn't mean you have to shoulder more than you can handle. Am I the jerk for telling my sister-in-law she should be ashamed of herself and learn to be a mature adult? My brother had 2 children with his ex by the time he was 21 years old. He stuck around for a couple of years, but when they broke up, he left the children too. He paid no child support, made no effort to keep in touch with the children, and did not check if they were okay. The rest of my family let the relationship drop too, but I, a 38-year-old male, was the exception. I stayed part of my niece and nephew's lives. I still have a good relationship with them today, and they are close to my children. 5 years ago, my brother got married, and now he is expecting a 3rd child with his wife. After settling into family life, he started to think more about his oldest 2 children and decided to reach out to them. He was initially met with silence, and then, after speaking to his ex, he received a brief message from his children saying they were still mad and hurt that he left. They had contact for about a month, but it was sporadic. He asked if they could meet in person, and the children said no. However, they agreed to do a video call with him one time, and that was it. This call happened 2.5 months into their reconciliation. At some point during this, he mentioned wanting them to meet his wife and other children. They told him that was not going to happen, and they did not want to reconcile with him. My brother was surprised. He had thought that them opening up to him about being angry and hurt was a sign that they were willing to work through it. They told him it would be one thing if he had not settled down and started a family all over again. But the fact that he did that and then reached out to them was too much for them. They wanted nothing to do with the family he created now. This led to a back and forth where he said they have younger siblings. They told him very clearly they would never acknowledge or accept them as siblings, and they would never accept him as their father. They told him he needed to move on. I spoke to my niece and nephew after the call. They reached out to me. They said it was good to close that door and to have the decision be their own. They felt like they got closure. My brother was not prepared for the outcome, and his wife is furious that my niece and nephew rejected them for existing. She started badmouthing the children at my parents' house in front of all of us. My brother told her to stop, but she said they should be ashamed of themselves for reacting like spoiled brats who do not get their way in punishing innocent children when they are supposed to be grown adults now. I told my sister-in-law she should be ashamed of herself for talking like that about the children my brother abandoned and did not give a second thought to until he had settled down with her and their children. I told her she should learn to be a mature adult and accept that his actions had consequences, and this is one of them. Cue her being offended and saying I have no right to speak to her that way, and some of my family telling me I should have said nothing. Am I the asshole? You are not in the wrong here. Your brother is a deadbeat dad who left his children and refuses to support them. His new wife has no right to call the kids spoiled brats just because they don't want to reconcile and meet their siblings. It's pretty clear who the real spoiled brat is here, and it's definitely not the kids. Good on you for pointing out the consequences. Am I the jerk for not telling my sister she can stay with me? I, 41-year-old male, live near my younger brother Frank, his wife Julie, and our parents. My younger sister Eden lives out of state. My family mostly communicates via a Facebook group. A few weeks ago, Eden posted on the Facebook group that she is bringing her family, 4 total, to visit in 2 weeks' time. She doesn't say this, but we all know she is short on cash, and the trip will be a big expense for them. When the message comes in, I don't respond right away. I am working, and my wife is working. If I saw it, I would have insisted right away that she stay with my family. My wife also would have invited her. She loves to host. Unfortunately, Frank replied first to her post that he would really love it if she stayed with them as they have children closest in age to Eden's children. Julie reinforced this by asking Eden to stay with them. By the time I saw the post, Eden had already agreed to stay with them and commented on how happy she was to not have to pay for a hotel. Here's the thing, Julie is a pill. Eden doesn't like her much. She is hard to deal with, very controlling and opinionated or rude. They also don't have as much space for Eden's family as I do. I would have loved to have my sister stay with us, but I didn't want to compete with Frank and Julie, and she had already committed to them. So I didn't offer. My wife and I actually felt hurt she chose them so quickly. Apparently, I was supposed to fight for my sister because when I saw her, she said she was stuck with Frank and Julie. Julie had given them a strict curfew, said some condescending things, and had them sleeping on couches and poor quality air mattresses. Eden's back was sore, and she was not happy with me. I told my sister she was always welcome at our home, and I thought I had previously made that clear over the years. I wish she would have told me she didn't want to stay at Frank's house, and I would have intervened, but she was so nice to them on Facebook, and I guess I missed the cues. She said she didn't want to impose and I should have offered. So now I feel bad. Am I the asshole? Eden should have just asked to stay with you directly if that's what she wanted. She's always been welcome at your place, so there's no need to feel guilty for not making another offer. It's really on her to communicate her needs and make decisions, not your responsibility. Trying to make you the bad guy isn't fair. She could have handled it more maturely. Am I the jerk for telling my roommate that she can't work while I'm home or she'll have to move out? A couple of months ago, I was approved for a new 3-bedroom rental unit. I had a friend who needed a place to stay due to escaping her abusive partner, so I offered her a room. To be clear, I offered her the room before I even moved into the property, but she is not on my lease. I am subleasing to her, and the landlord is okay with this. My friend has an OnlyFans account. She makes decent money, enough to pay the $300 I'm charging her for the room. Before we moved in, she told me she usually gets hotel rooms to film. I did tell her that it would make me uncomfortable if I could hear her making content for her OnlyFans, and she said she would rarely make content at home, and if she did, it wouldn't be while anyone else was there. I work at a school. When we first moved in, school was still in session, so I was away from home from 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. I don't know if she was renting hotel rooms, but I didn't care because I never heard her making any content while I was home, so I wasn't uncomfortable. School has been out for 2 weeks now. My teenage sister decided to fly out here to stay for the summer. Her room is right next to my roommate's. First, my sister told me she heard sex noises coming from my roommate's room late one night. I talked to my roommate about it and she denied it. I thought maybe my sister just has a wild imagination because she does know what my roommate does for money. However, last week I got home from the mall and could hear my roommate making content very loudly, so I left. I came back a couple of hours later and didn't say anything to my roommate. I didn't want to embarrass her. Then last night happened. I woke up because I heard the bathroom door. I went into the hallway. My sister was also there. She just looked at me and pointed at the bathroom door. At that point, I could totally hear my roommate with a man in the bathroom being super loud. When I knocked, it turns out she didn't shut the door all the way, and it flew open, and my sister and I saw everything. They got dressed, and the man left. I asked to talk to her and mentioned how we agreed she wouldn't make content when I was home. She denied she was, even though I saw everything. I told her I was uncomfortable and that she can't work while I'm home, or she needs to move out, and she stormed off. She won't talk to me or look at me at all today. I did text her reminding her about the conversation and asking if she decided to stay or move out. She replied back that I'm being ridiculous. She's not going to pay rent anymore and I have to evict her. I talked to a mutual friend about it. He said I'm the one at fault because I knew what she did for work before I let her move in. I'm confused because I thought she was the one at fault in the situation. But now I'm wondering if I'm the problem because she does pay to live there and I wouldn't want someone to boss me around in my house. Nothing you have done here makes me think you are the jerk here. Cut the Wi-Fi and play Disney music loudly. That stuff gets taken down for copyright super quick. All her content will be unusable if Savages from Pocahontas is blasting in the background. It's a pain to get her out now, but it's not going to get any easier, so start the process. Am I the jerk for telling my child I have no plans to motivate or support them after they are an adult? My oldest child is a good kid but kind of lazy. His mother has always protected him. She has her reasons. Her first husband and child passed away about 22 years ago. 2 years after that, we met, fell in love, got married, and had a child. Unfortunately for me, our son's birth was a catalyst for a regression for her. He could do no wrong. If I tried to punish or even just correct him, she would get upset and start crying or fight with me. If he found something difficult and I wanted him to work through it or try harder, she would step in and tell me to back off or actually just do it for him. This led to our divorce as I wanted to be a father and not a spectator. She fought so I wouldn't get custody. I ended up with visitation. My child wouldn't do anything though. He wouldn't bring his homework over, and all he wanted to do was play video games. If I didn't let him, he had tantrums. It was exhausting. She would always back him up. It was always my fault. I remarried to my wife Diane. We have 2 children and are doing our best to raise them right. My son stopped coming over when he was 14. I still invite him, but he rarely responds. My child support just stopped. His mother has been giving it to him to do whatever he wanted for the last 3 years. Not my problem. He called me to see if I could help him with money. I asked what for. He said that his mother can't give him the allowance he is used to. I asked if he was going to be attending some sort of post-secondary school. He said no. I told him to get a job. His mother has lost her temper. She said she will take me back to court so her poor baby can live his life his way. I wished her the best of luck and hung up. Now that he is an adult, I never have to talk to her again. It's too bad because I loved her very much. Not anymore. My son asked me to help him find a job. I said I would. I told him to send me his resume. I've been waiting 3 weeks for it. He called me yesterday to see if I had made any progress on finding him a job. I said he never sent me his resume. He got upset that I hadn't reminded him. It was one thing. I told him that I was not going to motivate him to do anything, that I would be here if he needed help, but that it would never be money again. I let him come over and helped him with the resume. I also talked to him about the trades or a community college. He is beginning to understand how difficult his future is now that his mother cannot do everything for him. He is upset with his mother now because he doesn't have life skills. She is mad at me for showing him the truth. I think you are not in the wrong here. It sounds like the mom wanted a lifetime of codependency, but the son is breaking free. It will be hard for him, but money isn't the only issue here, and therapy could help him with the mental aspect. Ultimately, he has to manage his own life and deal with his own decisions. After all, the only person he can control is himself. Am I the jerk for arguing with my mother-in-law about putting the family dog down without warning? My wife, who is 23 years old, has had a family dog, living with her grandmother, that they jointly had responsibility for 10 years. I randomly received a message from my mother-in-law asking what time my wife was going to work and stating that she would call me when my wife leaves. Super weird. I got the call, and she told me they had put the dog down the night before and had a burial for it. When my wife was 12 years old, their last family dog was put down the same way, unbeknownst to her. She was told the next day, and the dog was gone, incinerated and buried. This dog was the most important being to her. Honestly, I am like number 2. So I got angry and asked some questions. Why didn't you call her as soon as the dog was sick? Why didn't you give her the option? Even if she couldn't make it to be with the dog before you put her down, she deserved at the very least to know before I did. Why are you still avoiding her? Why are you calling me? Of course, I will be there for her when she gets the news, but don't you think she should know? As the joint caretaker for this dog, why did you bury the dog and have a funeral for her without her? Literally, she could have taken a bus and been there in 2 hours. It would have meant the world to her. My wife has been scarred and super afraid of anything like this happening again. And of course, it happens. The response of my mother-in-law. I shouldn't be having an opinion on this, and I shouldn't be putting guilt on her. It's not my place. I should be thinking about my wife's grandmother and how she feels. There wasn't enough time anyway, so it couldn't have been any different. I went to my wife's work and talked to her boss to get her the day off, and then I broke the news to her. She has been bawling her eyes out since. I convinced her to call her grandmother for some closure to help her hear how the final moments of the dog's life were, which I said would help her grieve in a healthier way. She is currently in the shower, bawling her eyes out. She said she is so upset she didn't get the chance to see the dog, nor did she get a call from either of them. Heartbroken. Clear cut, in my opinion, you have done nothing wrong here. It's really nice of you to be there for your partner, especially when dealing with the grief of losing a pet, which is often devalued by people like your rude mother-in-law. Your poor wife must have a lot of issues with her mom if something like killing a dog was so casual for her. This is definitely not the way to handle such a sensitive situation. Thanks for watching. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications so you never miss a video. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist in the description.